Hi everyone. This volcanic system on the Reykjanes Peninsula in Iceland is something else. So this thing itself is like a soap opera. I always said the Blue Lagoon is like a soap opera, but this as well. So if you have seen my last video that I just released yesterday, it was interesting. There were basically the volcanologist named Haraldur Sigurdsson and a geophysicist Grimur Björnsson, and they have predicted that they think that the magma that is flowing into the magma chamber underneath Swartsengi, that this is an event that will end. So they were predicting that they think that in late summer, we will see the end of that unrest near the little town of Grindavik. So they were thinking not more magma will flow in there, that it is slowing down. That's what they basically said. They said the rate at which the magma is accumulating underneath Swartsengi is slowing down, and they said it is clear that the average magma infusion into that magma chamber from a deeper laying magma reservoir is decreasing with time and has almost cut itself in half since we've seen the first magma intrusion on November 10th. So they said that, and I was kind of like, wow, this could be a game changer for Grindavik. Let's imagine all that unrest will end. Do the people even have to sell their homes to the government, or can they just come back there and live there after a period of time that is needed to repair these cracks, to fill up sinkholes, and to really assess everything that is going underneath that town, because there were sudden fissures, grabens opening inside building in sports arenas and stuff like this. So it's really scary. It has its own hazard level, crack collapse, but that would be a game changer for businesses and for residents. But, and here comes the but, the Icelandic Meteorological Office has released something that contradicts this today. So is this sad news? I think this is sad news in my opinion. So they are basically saying there are no clear signs that we can see the end of these earthquakes, the rumblings, and the intrusions and eruptions. So they say that there are no clear signs that it will end, or that the earthquakes on the Reykjanes Peninsula and close to Grindavik will end in the near future. And the assumption was before the Reykjanes Peninsula has woken up, so this thing can go on for 10 years or even several decades or centuries. And so basically they're killing the excitement that I had yesterday when these two scientists were making that announcement. But you know, the interesting thing is, and we will get to that later, if you look at what's happening, it is true that the amount of magma that flows into that magma chamber within 24 hours has cut itself in half since November 10th. I'll get to that in a minute. So, you know, the MET Office says that there are clear signs that magma that flows underneath Swartsengi, that this flow has not changed between the last three events that we have seen. So that's why they're saying it's not possible to predict a really precise timing for an end of this sequence of events, eruptions, intrusions, because it is still ongoing. That's what they're saying. And they are saying there must be signs that the magma flow has decreased significantly between the events. So they say their interpretation of the available data shows no clear signs that this is a trend. But, you know, they have released this graph, and that's, I don't know. I wouldn't rule out the two other scientists just of yet, because if you look at that graph, You see the purple line, you see what happened on November 10th. We see the different events here. And what is marked in gray, that's the last 3 events that we have seen since January this year. So the yellow line is the January eruption. And then it was at that time, the magma chamber underneath Swartsengi was filling up with about 400 million cubic meters in 24 hours. So they just said a few days ago 500,000. So it seems they have adjusted their data. And then the light blue line, this is the eruption that we had on February 8th. And it was flowing with even a little bit a little more than 400,000 cubic meters. The question is, can you really determine it that precisely? Not really. And then it goes down a little bit. That's the red line. That's the March 2nd intrusion, where only 1.3 million cubic meters did flow out anyway. So that was a minor event. So there it goes down a little bit to below 400,000 cubic meters. And that's why the Met Office says within these 3 events, it's remaining quite stable. But I see the point that the other 2 guys are making, because, you know, it's been at 700,000 cubic meters per 24 hours in October, November, and it has almost cut itself in half. So we have to see. I think probably we need to wait for a few more events to see a trend. And there I am with the Met Office when they say it's too early to call a trend, because right now it is still filling up at the same rate that it had in January. And that's why they still think that there is still a chance of an eruption on the Sutnuka crater series. So they're saying this based on their available data on the constant amount of magma that accumulates underneath Swartsengi, where the Blue Lagoon and the power plant are located every day. So that's why they believe there is a chance that we will see another magma intrusion, another eruption, and in the Sutnuka crater series. So what the Met Office basically is saying, and they have measured a land rise underneath Swartsengi land rise because the magma chamber is filling between 2020 and 22 in 4 periods, and there were breaks in between, and the breaks had various lengths, so it didn't always have the same quiet period. And so at one time, almost 16 months had passed before it resumed to refill, and the land rise resumed in October 2023. So are they hinting that we could see something like this? Well, right now they're saying it is still filling up. It is still rising, still at the same rate. So they don't think something has changed. But there is another announcement that they have made today on their website, and that is interesting as well. So what they're basically saying, so they, as I just said, they haven't really changed their opinion about the 3 possible scenarios that they always list there about what could happen in the next few days, because everything is basically still the same in their opinion as it was before the March 2nd event. So they are still saying continued increased likelihood of an eruption and sequence of events in the next few days. Amount of magma continues to increase, which would end with a new magma intrusion and possibly an eruption. Eruption could start with little warning, possibly within 30 minutes. That's what they're saying. And it's most likely it could occur between Stora Skogfell and Hagafell. And now they have added the main changes in the activity. And that's basically the update that they have released. They are saying there are indications that more magma needs to accumulate under Swartsengi than before to trigger a new magma intrusion and possibly an eruption. And that's why there is now higher uncertainty than before about the timing of the next magma intrusion and possible eruption. So they don't give an explanation as to why there needs to be more magma in the magma chamber to trigger something. Well, if you have some brain and can do some logical thinking, yeah, that must be the case, because obviously we don't have another intrusion or eruption. Because at the beginning, after March 2nd, when only a little bit of magma, 1.3 million cubic meters, was flowing out in that event, and it started refilling at the same rate right away, the experts were saying, well, it'll only take a few days. We will see this week, and I'd be surprised if it didn't happen now. But you know, that happened on March 2nd, and we have March 16th now in Iceland. So 2 weeks, right? Nothing has happened. So of course, the assumption is now, well, obviously, somehow the magma chamber needs more pressure, or more magma needs to accumulate. Maybe because there have been some earthquakes, maybe it's leaking slowly. There's a leak, and that's why it's not building up that pressure. Who knows, right? We don't know. All we can do basically is sit here and wait. But, you know, they have also updated their graph that shows where we are right now compared to the other event. So their measurements that they have done recently, they confirm that it is continuing underneath swartsengi, and it is continuing at that similar rate. Also, and that's the first time that they even mentioned this, because maybe there were some doubts. They also say that the data sets that they have, they confirm the location of the land rise. So it is still happening at the same location underneath the swartsengi area, and at the same depth that was observed in the previous events. So that seems to be the same. The magma chamber underneath swartsengi is still that magma chamber that is filling up and causing that land rise. So that hasn't changed, and they seem it to be necessary to confirm that, because there were theories. Is it moving west? Is the land rise moving west? That was the news the last few days. So scientists started to believe it's moving to Antwerp, could cause an eruption there. No, they're saying the land rise is not moving west today. They're saying that. So it's still there. So to me, that sounds nothing has really changed. So we had a small curve of excitement and nothing has really changed. Maybe it did, and they just don't notice it. Maybe the other two guys are right, and I so hope that the other two guys are correct and it will end in the summer. But then also, you don't know when it's going to start again, right? But it would be nice if it just did end. They say that for the magma intrusion or eruptions, I'll just call them magma runs. It's both. So that when the magma started running out of the magma chamber. So for those events that have occurred between January 14th and March the 2nd, they knew that the magma chamber needed to have around 10 million cubic meters to trigger these events. So that's why they were able to make a forecast when the next event would happen. But obviously it hasn't worked for what's going on right now. But they were happy at that time that they could make longer term forecasts for that matter based on these volumes that they had. But now it seems to have changed, and we don't know what is changing or why it is changing. So right now we know the magma chamber has recharged, and the volume that is in that magma chamber is significantly higher than it was before the March 2nd event. But yet, nothing has happened. No eruption, no intrusion. So that's why they're saying this indicates a possible change in the magma system and how it works. But we don't know what change. We just don't know. And that's why there is so much uncertainty. What would be the new limit? We knew it was 10 million. But now, what's the limit now? They don't know. And That's why the timing and the magnitude of the next event is out in the open. It is difficult to predict that, and basically they don't know. But what they're also saying, because we have seen quite a few earthquakes in the area around Grindavik and northwest of Gindavik, basically, along the Magma dike that has formed on November 10th. And of course, that has raised speculations what is going on. And they're saying, we cannot rule out the possibility of an eruption occurring within an adjacent area or volcanic system west of Mount Thorbjorn or in Antwerp. But they're saying, however, prior to this occurring, a new dike will first need to be intruded into that area. So they need another magma intrusion in that area. It's like if you want to drive a train to a different location, you need to build the train tracks first. That is what they're basically saying. And if you look at that map here, you see the two Grabens that have formed. The one on the left, that has formed on November 10th last year, and it has been as wide as 2 kilometers wide. And within that area, there was a land subsidence. You can see this on the other map here. So the land was subsiding, and at one spot, it was subsiding as much as 1.3 meters. That was basically right at the exit of Grindavik up north. And then the other Graben that formed a little bit further east when we had that event, the eruption, the January eruption at the doorsteps of Gindavik. So that is only 800 to 1,000 meters wide, and the land subsidence is at about 30 centimeters. So they're saying they need a new basically formation like this to send the magma in a new area. And they're saying there is currently no evidence of a dike intrusion within these areas. And they're saying such an intrusion in a new area is expected to be characterized by a strong earthquake sequence, and large amounts of ground deformation would be detected on all measuring instruments, and none of these monitoring data sets currently show any evidence of this. So that is interesting, right? So I wonder why the scientists that had this theory the last few days that it might move to Antwerp, that the land rise might move west, why did they have that theory? Did they think magma is flowing? Is it leaking in tinier tunnels? Is that why? It is yet to be answered. So they are saying that there has been an increase in seismicity to the northwest of Gindavik, but they are saying it is likely that the continued land rise and inflation of the magma reservoir that is underneath Swartsengi would now trigger these small movements of the faults that are already there, these pre-existing faults in the area that were activated due to the magma intrusion that happened on November 10th. Because there is a lot of stuff there. And if you look at the map, these two Grabens, there's a lot of fissures and stuff in there. So is there something moving, widening underneath? And is this causing these earthquakes? Interesting stuff, guys. We will have to follow up. The saga continues for sure. So, guys, thanks for watching. Leave this video a like. Check out the videos in the end screen. There has been a bombshell released about the Boeing incident. The whistleblower that brought up the safety issues in the building process of the new aircraft. He has started a whistleblower lawsuit, and he has already testified once. And the morning he was supposed to testify the second time, he was found, I can't say the word because then I'm flagged by the algorithm, in his truck on the hotel's parking lot with the gun still in his hand. And police says only in 25% of self-inflicted things like that, people still have it in their hands. And people who want to make it look like it was self-inflicted often make this mistake and put it in their hands. So what has really happened? A close friend of John Barnett, the whistleblower, has made a statement basically that he warned that this would happen, and he wanted her to tell her, if that happens, I didn't do it. So stunning, stunning news. Watch the video, guys. This is a story that I think we all should follow. I think this is really something, what is going on with Boeing, and I don't want to say more. Watch the video. I'm out of here, guys. Bye-bye.